Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for Pitside with Paiger at the Mohawk International Raceway. Tonight, I have a special guest. None other than Brett the Jet Hearn, hailing out of New Jersey. Brett, you're back at Mohawk tonight. Is it hot enough for you?
Oh, yeah, we love it like this, man.
Well, we'll get into the interview here. I got a few questions. Quick interview. One of the things that happened the other night, Selinsgrove, the scales seem to be an issue, not just for Brett Hearn, but for everybody else. Can you tell us what happened that night?
I mean, the biggest problem is they have a sort of a steel grate over top of their platform scales, and you can't roll up on the scales and get the same number twice. So we know we leave the shop exactly how much the car weighs, and we wanted to make sure we added enough weight accordingly. It's only a 35-lap race, so we weren't going to burn a whole lot of fuel off, so that really wasn't an issue. We wanted to make sure that we were going to be okay at the end. And we get done with the race, and they're telling us we're 30 pounds under, and there's no way. So I mean, they wouldn't consider reevaluating the scale issue, even though 3 of the top 5 cars had to be reweighed a second time. 1 gained weight on their loop around, the other 2, me being one of them, didn't. So I was a little upset they wouldn't even consider the idea that maybe the scales were off a little bit, or not, at the very least, not very consistent. And so we got DQ'd. But I mean, if you run thousands of races like I do, sooner or later stuff's going to happen, and just put it down in the stuff column,
Right, and so the racing fans of the world know Brett Hearn, Matt Shepard, your top stars, don't purposely come to a racetrack saying, I'm going to run light tonight and see if I can get away with it, correct?
Well, I mean, the last thing, the first thing that we know is that if you finish in the top 5, you're going over the scales. That's like the first step in racing, so you can't fudge with that. I mean, you can cut it close, but you can't mess with it. And so, if we think the scales are questionable, which I did there because they've had problems in the past, we went up on the scales 3 different times before the feature, once before the hot laps, once after the hot laps, once after the heat race, and we knew exactly where we were at. And, during our feature, the scales changed. And we came back the next morning to the shop, and just to clear my own mind, we got the car up on the scales right out of the trailer, and it was 25-15, exactly where it was supposed to be. So, one of those deals.
Well, you've got over 500 wins in your career. Is that one of those things that really agitate, frustrate you as a race car driver? This is how you get your groceries, and when something like that happens, you go home, do you second-guess yourself saying, is it me or is it the scales?
No, I mean, like I said, we leave the shop, we know exactly how much we weigh, but we know also that the track scales are the official scale, so we take that into consideration, and that's why you take every precaution that you can if you think it's sketchy. But when you go up on the scale 3 different times and you get 3 distinct different readings, it's hard to set up for that. I mean, you just don't know what to expect, and then you get whacked in the end, as well as other guys did, or other team did, and they don't even want to consider that there might be a problem.
Well, one of the things I read, Brad, to change subjects here, one of the things that I read about you were a pretty good high school quarterback. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Was that a career you looked at for college, or what happened?
My first love is basketball. I wasn't really great at that, although I did play for 1 year. But I really liked basketball. Football, I liked football. I played 3 years, played varsity my junior year, and my senior year in the state of New Jersey, they had a rule that if you were being paid in another professional sport, you could not be eligible for high school sports, and I was being paid to race a car. So they deemed me ineligible to play football my senior year. And at that point, really, I think I felt like I liked racing more anyway. So here we are.
Right, so how did you get your start in racing? A neighbor had it, or you said to your parents, I want to give this a try?
No, actually, went to the racetrack, and my dad knew a guy that was racing. They had been childhood friends, and they reunited, kind of spurred some interest in racing a little bit, and my dad bought a used car from him, and he got to trying to drive himself a little bit, and then we got, as kids, in 11, 12-year-old kids, we got dragged into go-kart racing because we liked motorized stuff, like the whole family did. So it was a family thing, and started go-kart racing. And when I turned 16, that friend of my dad's had another car, and my dad had gotten out of the stock car racing business for a few years while we concentrated on go-kart racing at that point, and he got the itch to put another stock car together, and said, do you want to be the driver? I was like, hell yeah.
And, well, one of the things now throughout your career, you've started in New Jersey. Now you're back at Malta. They put the clay to the facility. Are you happy you're running there every Friday night now?
Yeah, loving Malta, really. I mean, it was a 2-year break while they raced pavement there. I really felt like I really liked the area a lot, and I never really thought that we'd be back there. I thought that chapter was already closed, but it's come back this year. The fields have been strong, the crowds have been good. So, of all the things that are happening in racing, I guess that's one of the highlights of the year, I guess.
Well, speaking of highlights, a couple weeks ago, Tony Stewart had his Prelude to the Dream, big show there at Eldora, where he invites some of the top dirt racers. One of the hot topics was, why not give Brett Hearn a chance, one of those. If Tony were to call you and said, Brett, I got a late model for you, would you come out, and how do you think you'd fare against some of those guys?
Well, I've driven a late model a couple of times for Rocket, and I got to tell you, it's a hard transition to make between late models and modifieds, because they drive so different. I'd like to do a test session first. I know that, I could get it. It's just a matter of time. But to go out there and be thrown to the wolves like Danica was, I don't know if I want to be in that situation.
Well, and throughout the country, there's die-hard late model fans, die-hard sprint car fans. Do you think some of those fans in those other series kind of look down on us, modified fans and drivers, that we're not on par with them?
Well, when you talk to people across the country who haven't seen our brand of modified racing, most of them, when you say modifieds, they think of a UMP modified, which is quite different, although has gotten some notoriety from guys like Kenny Wallace and Ken Schrader, who love to race those cars. But it's not the same. It's not the same car. Our cars are much more powerful, much bigger tires, much faster, and so our recognizability outside of a little bit of TV time that we get and some of the stuff we get in magazines, national magazines, is pretty limited. So I think that if the overall picture is that the rest of the country, late model fans and sprint car fans, look down on us, it's because they equate us with a very limited modified, like a UMP modified, which you can find any part of the country.
Right, and we're so regional when it comes to modified, you're right. But do you also think that kind of translates into our fans, and I'm still a fan, we're so hardcore for modifieds, you guys are so accessible. We can walk into the pits, come up and talk to you. Do you think that really makes for a better racing fan?
Well, I think so. And one of the things that has changed over the years is that, if you were the modified class, you would be the last class to run. And because we've got so many startup divisions now, a lot of times the tracks can't run the modifieds last because they want to spread the crowd out, or they don't want to keep the crowd there real late, so they run the other lower divisions after we're done. And I think it's really cut off the fans from the time that they have to spend with us after the races. Back in the day, I can remember, a lineup of 100 people behind my trailer at Middletown to just say hello. And now a lot of times we're loaded up and we're pulling out of the pits before the last race is over.
Do you leave Lebanon Valley earlier because gasket case is there? Jay?
I wish I could, but believe it or not, I have to be the last one to leave because we can't back out of that place. We have to wait for everybody else to leave before we can. And we have the longest drive home.
Now, Brett, you've raced at Frogtown, now it's Mohawk. What do you think of the changes in this place the last couple of years?
Oh, man, this place is awesome. We had a blast here coming here in September when we led most of that big block race, the Super Dirt Series race, and we shredded a tire right at the end. But this went from one of my all-time hated tracks to one of my favorites, and that's why we took the long drive up here to come for this race tonight.
Now, it's such a long, enduring racing schedule. Do you do anything different throughout the year? You have a pretty good, healthy regimen, exercise, proper diet. How do you keep going year after year?
There's a lot of work that goes into the winter, but when we're in season right now, it's pretty much work. Drive to the race and go back, and there's not much time to do anything or get any kind of routine at all. So, a lot of nights we drive home and get back to New Jersey at 3:30, even on weekends. Get back and get to bed at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's really hard to get into any kind of routine.
So tonight it's super hot, high humidity. Any special conditions, or is anything different you're going to do to prepare yourself as far as hydration?
No, actually, I've been eating fruit and drinking a lot of stuff today. So that's about all you can really do. Nothing crazy, but no hamburgers today, no French fries, and actually, I like this kind of weather for racing.
Now, one of the things I always ask a racer, a couple years ago, an NFL football player said he saw a couple of races and he's not impressed. He doesn't think race car drivers are athletes. What do you think of that? Are you an athlete?
I I mean, I might not be able to run a marathon, but I can run a race car. I know that, and I mean, it takes a ton of concentration and a great hand-eye coordination skill, and it's just every sport requires some different elements of something that's athletic, and I guess racing would be the same thing.
Well, Brett, we're going to let you get back to working here, but one final question, and it's kind of a fill in the blank. It's a softball type question. Brett Hearn will consider it a successful 2012 season if
we win a championship, a big championship, whether it be the Super Dirt Series or a couple track championships or whatever, and if we could stay somewhere close to the average number of wins that we usually get, and stay competitive every race we go to, that we're if we can't win it, that we're in the hunt anyway.
Well, Brett, thank you for your time tonight. Best of luck. Anybody you'd like to say hello to or thank tonight?
No, tell Gasket to give me a call because I got a race at Malta July 10th that him and I need to promote.
Will do, Brett. Thank you very much for your time. You've been listening to Pitside with Paiger from the Mohawk International Raceway.